Nanotechnology is one of the most disruptive technologies out there. So first off, read this disclaimer carefully and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So we go here, and nanotechnology, it has a 244% move from the 52-week low, which is substantially outperforming the S&P 500. We have seen some haircut in multiple nanotech companies. So this is definitively one of those themes where the moves are very big. Looking very long-term for nanotech, it is very difficult to become bearish. We will look at Bruker. They are in the more broadly, instruments business. 88% move here from the low, minus 2.58% away from the 52-week highs. So here is Bruker. It enables chip cytometry for immunology and immuno-oncology research. So the thing is that they have, a bunch of instruments. So I searched through their website for terms related to nano. So they have like nano-elute, nanomechanical test systems, nanoscale infrared spectrometers. So basically they have a bunch of, you see here, on their website, there is 4,630 results relating to nano. So definitely they give you exposure to the instrument side of the nanotech revolution. So here is Bruker weekly data points. So I did find these time cycles. You tend to have these large time cycles within which there is a tendency for there to be two smaller. And you see that throughout time, they have been relatively reliable at, giving you a hint about future price direction. Based on the large and the small time cycle, there is reason to expect some pullback. That has been very common for this stock for a long time. For some reason, it seems to have an affinity towards, during the major cycle pullbacks, to test the 200-week moving average in red or the 100-week in blue. So when we look here at the seasonality for Bruker, it's a bit messy because it has changed a bit more significantly over time. So looking at the last 10 years, then June, July, August tend to be the weakest months. And that fits here with the time cycles. When we look at the last 20 years, like this, it changes a bit here because you see that in this instance, then June, July, they are not the strongest months by far, but they are not really weak either, though May and August tend to be more mediocre. So yeah, I think that the last 10 years, that's the most recent time frame. Then again, the last 20 years give us the bigger picture. So it's sort of like it's a bit of a mixed message, but generally speaking, this is a time to be a bit more cautious given the history here of Bruker's price action. When we look here at the PPO and the RSI, which currently is rather elevated. Previous times we have seen these kinds of readings, they have marked either the beginning of just a pullback or the end of a key time cycle. So that is the history. Hence, the current reading represents high risk here for the bulls. Let's go to the daily data points, and we zoom way back to get a bunch of data. Here on the dailies, in this instance, the PPO measures the distance between price and the 200-day moving average. So PPO is at a very high reading. In this instance right here, high PPO marked the cycle peak. Here we got a pullback to the blue 100-day moving average. In this instance, cycle peak, major pullback. This instance, huge pullback, almost to the 200-day moving average. So now we have stayed with a high PPO for the longest time within this entire time frame. Hence, the current event is an anomaly in the extent of the upward direction. And given how substantial the pullbacks have been in the past, then there's reason to be cautious. This pullback here, as an example, it was minus 22-ish%, and that is not the biggest. That is far from the biggest. Looking here at Finviz, they draw the trend channel. We seem to be rejected in the upper end. We bounced here from the low end, but we haven't really retested the upper end yet. There's no guarantee that we will, though. Looking here at analyst price targets, we have seen a large number of downgrades recently. Some of the recent price targets, Goldman, Wells Fargo, around $50, which is substantially below the current stock price of $69.44. The mean target price target is $72.58, which would be 4.5% above the current stock price. But that doesn't really help us a lot here, because basically even when you take the mean target price, the analysts basically think that the stock is fairly valued. When we look at Saks, they have a number to buy, but they have an F value score, A growth, A momentum. Industry rank top 41%, and there's a meager 0.23% dividend. A bit of a mixed signal here, but definitively when you do have an F value score, it is a clear sign that the stock, given the current sales and business operations of the company, the stock has run quite far away from that. So to sum up my take here for Bruker Corporation, long term, looking decades into the future, then I am certainly bullish on Bruker. Nanotechnology is still in its very early stages, and it is one of the most, I would go so far as to say that it is the most disruptive of all themes. That's because innovations on the nano level can just completely upend entire industries. Just imagine if some small nanotech company invents a new type of glue that is twice as strong as all other glues on the market. That would be very disruptive. Or a new type of paint that lasts, twice as long. People would definitively prefer that paint over all other paints. So yes, nanotech, definitively a theme to have on your radar, and there's a lot of interesting things that happen to the smaller companies in this space. Bruker is a big boy. They are $10 billion in market cap. But when I looked through the items in the theme, I did decide to look at Bruker in this video, because that's where there's something happening, like there's a technical event at the moment. And that is a key thing when, looking at, securities, you need to have an event. And the current event, signal for Bruker, unfortunately for the bulls, is that, we do see very, very high readings when it comes to excess. So the time cycles, seasonality suggest downside. The fundamentals also suggest that we should expect a pullback, and Bruker does tend to have these pullbacks to the 200 and 100 week moving average. Those are the levels where it makes sense to become very bullish. It does not make any sense, given the history of Bruker, to become a roaring bull here, to look at this and be like, oh, we are about to break out to the upside. That completely ignores the history of this stock. This chart here tells you very clearly when it is a good time historically to buy shares in Bruker, and when it is time to consider to take profits or even consider temporary bearish strategies.